How's it going, guys? Brian Danoff here, and today I wanted to talk about a very special anniversary coming up this year for regarding the New York Yankees, and it's not the one you're thinking about. If you realize, of course, it is now 2016, and that marks 20 years since the Yankees won the 1996 World Series, which was their first in, I believe it was 18 years, and that kind of was the birth of the Yankees dynasty. It was, and the birth of the Yankees as we know them today, as they still are, still a powerhouse team with a lot of money, with a lot of success, and even though they have won one World Series or two World Series this century, if you count 2000. They've still had so much success, and it all starts with 1996. And in fact, this hat, which I got for Christmas, is a 1996 World Series Yankees hat. It's pretty great. It is authentic with the gray brim and the patch on the side and the MLB logo right there. So yeah, it's all legit and it's pretty great. But the anniversary that matters to me because I am only 18, I was born in 1998, is 2006. And yes, technically it's 10 years since the Mets almost went to the World Series, but what it is for me is the 10-year anniversary of me becoming a Yankees fan, becoming a baseball fan, and the first year I ever watched baseball and the Yankees. And just wanted to talk about that real quick, not to get too sentimental, but this is a video more geared, this is a video for me more than it is a video for you, just saying. But yeah, so 2006 was the year. I was 8 years old, so I didn't start, young. I guess, a lot of my friends, I think, were watching baseball and going to Yankee games when they were 4 or 5. I think I went to my first game when I was 6 in 2004, but I don't really remember it at all. I think I remember sitting, I remember where my seats were, and I just remember, I remember it was down the first base line, because the only picture I remember is Jason Giambi at first base, seeing the number 25 on his back. That's the only thing I remember from my first Yankee game, and it kind of sucks. But yeah, that's all I can really say. Other than that, I started playing Little League when I was 6. So I played Little League for a little bit, but baseball was kind of just a thing I played and not really a thing I cared too much to watch. But, as I started getting older, as did my friends, and they started talking about baseball a lot, it became the only thing they would talk about. And I just remember getting kind of annoyed that I couldn't talk to them about it. And they loved trading baseball cards. That was still kind of a thing back when I was young. And I think it still is, but more for kids, more for people my age and up, I would say at this point, more than it is for actual little kids. But my friends traded baseball cards all the time. They had these binders full of them, and they looked so cool to me. And all they would do was talk about the Yankee game. And I remember a few times they would lie that I'd seen the game the night before, and they'd be like, "Did you see A-Rod's home run?" I'd be like, "Yeah." Who's A-Rod again? Really, up until I was 8 years old, I had no knowledge of the Yankees except for the existence of the Yankees and Derek Jeter. That was kind of it. So, when I was 8, I kind of decided. I can't say for sure that I remember exactly how it happened. All I remember was one day me just going, I want to watch baseball, and I'm going to watch baseball tonight. And I remember my dad was channel surfing, and I think my whole family was in the living room. So me, my mom, my dad, and my two little brothers. And at this point, they're really little. If I'm 8 and they were like 5 and 2 or 3. And we just came upon the Yankees game, and this happened to be opening day of the 2006 season, and they were playing Oakland in a night game, and so it was it was late. It was, 10 o'clock ish or so. And I just remember, deciding, he's telling my dad I want to watch it for a change. And again, I'm pretty sure this is the first Yankee game I ever watched on TV. And I remember the Yankees, I think, just destroyed the A's. And I was blown away. The game just really, it captivated me. I was just so interested in it because I think, the Yankees, I loved the home runs. I just loved how many home runs they hit that night. I loved all the offense. I think it was Johnny Damon's first game as a Yankee, and you know, instantly I was pretty much hooked. The rest of 2006 was really a blur to me. I just remember that I watched pretty much every single game, and when I wasn't watching Yankee games, I was watching the S Network for Yankeeography or Yankees Magazine or Yankees on Deck, and I just became a huge Yankee fan inside and out. And by watching those other programs, I really developed a sense of Yankees history. I learned more history in that one year than I probably have learned since then, or at least absorbed. Um, so I started watching every single Yankees game, and I do remember certain games. I remember watching the game where Melky Cabrera robbed Manny Ramirez of a home run. I think that was also the game where Hideki Matsui broke his wrist. I'm not sure. I don't think, maybe it wasn't. I do think it was against the Red Sox. I could be wrong. But I just remember that too. I remember Hideki Matsui getting hurt. I remember Gary Sheffield getting hurt. And I remember Bernie Williams stepping in. He was at this point kind of regulated to the DH, but also he was batting ninth, I think, on opening day or eighth. And this was, of course, I ended up learning that this was the guy who batted in the middle of the lineup or the top of the lineup his entire career and had been the star center fielder, but had been pushed out due to Johnny Damon. And he stepped in and was pretty solid. It was really fun to watch him. He did really well. He became a favorite of mine. I remember when they traded for Bobby Abreu and Corey Lytle, and Bobby Abreu stepping in and absolutely destroying and was just so great. And that whole year, I just gradually acquired more and more Yankees items. I just suddenly, I think for my birthday, I asked for a Johnny Damon jersey. It was an away jersey with no name on the back. I immediately was against that. I was like, wait, the Yankees don't have names on their backs. Why? If I want a jersey, there shouldn't be a name on the back. And that has, my opinion is held since then. And so I got a bunch of Yankee memorabilia, and I subscribed to Yankees Magazine. I think that year I was also a member of the Yankees fan club. I think that's all it was called. So I remember getting a package in the mail at some point with a keychain and a T-shirt and a membership card, and I think technically I'm pretty sure a voucher for tickets came with it. I don't remember how my parents ended up using it, but and then for my birthday, which was the biggest present that year, I got tickets to a Yankee game, which was I think June 26th. It was ended up being game one of a day-night doubleheader against the Florida Marlins at the old Yankee Stadium. And that was the first game I think I remember vividly well, if that makes sense. The Yankees, of course, were playing the Marlins, and Ching-Ming Wang was on the mound. And I remember, and my seats were incredible. Of course, they were still expensive, but at the time, at the old stadium, they weren't too crazy. So I got to sit, I think, about 10 rows behind home plate. It was great. And I remember before the game, Ching-Ming Wang was signing autographs. I recognized after a while, I saw that he was doing this, and I ran down to try to get an autograph. And as soon as I got down there, Ron Guidry comes out of the dugout, of course, the Yankees pitching coach at the time, tells Wang something, and right before I swear, he was about to sign my baseball, and he just flipped and walked straight out to the outfield for his pregame bullpen. And I remember that really well. The Yankees won that game. I remember Mariano Rivera came in and got the save. And it was so great. And, that was the first time I think I'd seen Mariano pitch, and Enter Sandman came on, and my uncle, who, just loves, grew up, he plays guitar, he loves rock music, and just to see him rocking out to that Metallica song, it just really got me going. And he was also a beer vendor at Yankee Stadium, believe it or not, up until that year. He was a beer vendor for 30 years at Yankee Stadium, so he had seen the games from the late 70s World Series to the late 90s World Series. He had seen it all. Yeah, and he was there for the 2003 ALCS Game 7. I remember him, he keeps telling me he remembers the stadium shaking when Aaron Boone hit that home run. But anyway, so yeah, I went to that game with him. I went to a few more games that year. Come to think of it, I remember going to a game in May that I think was either the night before or after the Yankees had a miraculous comeback against the Texas Rangers, which ended with Jorge Posada hitting a walk-off home run. So again, I went to the game either the day before that or after that, because I remember it ended up being a rainout, or there was a huge rain delay, and we left in the middle of the game. And I remember listening to the game on the ride home, and the Yankees were coming back, but ultimately lost. So yeah. But then, I remember, of course, we got to the playoffs, and, the Yankees were playing the Tigers, and I barely knew what the playoffs were. I barely knew the system. I just kind of expected the Yankees to win the World Series because that's what I'd been told, that, well, they kind of win the World Series every year. So I was pretty excited for this postseason, and as we know, the Yankees won Game 1 because Derek Jeter went 5 for 5, and that game was so great. And that game, if nothing else, that game cemented my love for baseball, because I was watching the hero of New York, Derek Jeter, do what he's best at and come up clutch in the postseason. And it was nothing like I'd ever seen before, and it was just so, so great. But of course, that series went south very, very fast, and the Yankees lost Game 2. I remember watching that game at my grandma and grandpa's house on ESPN, because at the time the series was split between Fox and ESPN, and it was also a day game, which MLB doesn't really do anymore in the postseason, if at all, at least in recent memory. But yeah, so it was on ESPN, so you had the broadcast team of John Miller and Joe Morgan with the call, and I remember I did play. That's also what kind of piqued my interest. I did play a lot of Major League Baseball 2K5 on the PlayStation 2, and that game was a lot of fun to play. And then to hear those announcers' voices, to find out that they're actually real people, and that ESPN is a real thing, was really cool. But yeah, so the Yankees lost Game 2. I remember that Mike Messina started that game. He gave up a game-tying home run to Jose Guillen in the 6th inning. The Yankees were on their way to winning that game. Then they lost Game 3 in Detroit, and then they lost Game 4 in Detroit. They lost 3 straight. And I remember Game 4 a lot because there was a whole drama that manager Joe Torre had dropped A-Rod to 8th in the batting order. And that was just so... That was the first time I had seen any sort of actual drama surrounding a sports team. And that was that, listen, A-Rod's struggling. He's making the most money, but he's struggling, and he's bringing the team down. And Torre just dropped him in the lineup, and that sent shockwaves throughout the Yankee land. And sure enough, the Yankees lost Game 4. I remember Jarrett Wright started that game, and I remember, after watching that whole season, I was like, why are they starting Jarrett Wright in Game 4? They could get eliminated. Why not start Randy Johnson or Ching-Ming Wong? But sure enough, they started right, and the Yankees lost. And I really, really, really do remember seeing Corey Lytle in the bullpen. I just remember seeing a shot of him during the game, just seeing him in the bullpen. I really do. And then sure enough, a few days later, he died in a plane crash, and that was just unbelievable to me. And at my age and having just recently learned about Thurman Munson, it was very eerie to me. I was like, I just watched a Yankeeography about Thurman Munson and how he died in a plane crash, and how Corey Lytle did the same, and it was horrible. And of course, I remember then in 2007, the Yankees wore black armbands for him, and I remember opening day in 2007, Jason Giambi was close with Corey Lytle and his family, and so he brought out Corey Lytle's wife and kid to throw out the first pitch. Anyway, but yeah, so the Yankees lost, and at that point I was like, what? How did the Yankees lose? This makes no sense. I thought the point of being a fan is to see them win at the end of every single season. But yeah, and then of course, um, that offseason the Yankees signed Kagawa and Andy Pettitte, and I had known about Andy Pettitte for a long time, so it was really cool to see him come back after I had just only known about him through, seeing highlights of the late '90s and the early 2000s. But yeah, that kind of was it. And once the season was over, it was official. I was going to be a Yankee fan for life, and I was going to be a baseball fan for life. And just each year, I kept getting more and more into it until here I am now, 18 years old in 2016, still as passionate about the Yankees as ever, and just as passionate about baseball too. So that's pretty much it. Just wanted to share my story. I know it's very long. I'll try to edit this so it's at least a little more entertaining to watch. Maybe put some clips and pictures over it. But yeah, just kind of a video I wanted to make on a snowy January evening when baseball seems the farthest thing away from New York. But sure enough, it'll be back soon. And before I know it, I'll be heading back down to 161st Street to watch yet another season of New York Yankees baseball. So thanks for watching, guys. Go Yankees, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.